Welcome to Health 2660. Here we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. They say aging changes you, but no one prepared me for what it feels like to slowly lose your mind. It started subtly, insidiously, like a thief in the night. A misplaced set of keys, not a dramatic vanishing, but perched on top of the refrigerator when I swore I'd left them on the hook by the door. A forgotten appointment, chalked up to a busy schedule, a common enough occurrence in my life as a partner at a successful law firm. Losing the thread of a conversation, not a complete blank, but a momentary pause, a slight stammer as I searched for the right word, a fleeting disconnect that I could usually bridge with a joke or a self-deprecating remark. Senior moment. I'd laugh, and everyone around me would chuckle in agreement. It was normal, wasn't it? Just getting older? The gears of my mind were simply requiring a little more oil, a little more coaxing to turn smoothly. I was 63 years old after all. Retirement was on the horizon, a time for relaxation travel, and finally pursuing those long-neglected hobbies. I had earned it. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a chilling unease began to creep in. The incidents became more frequent, more pronounced. The keys ended up in increasingly bizarre locations, inside the washing machine buried beneath a pile of socks, in the freezer nestled amongst the frozen peas, even once, inexplicably, in the bird bath in the backyard. The appointments I missed were no longer minor scheduling mishaps, but crucial meetings with important clients, leaving my colleagues scrambling to cover for me, their polite smiles tinged with concern. The conversational lapses grew longer, more profound, until I found myself staring blankly at the person I was talking to, the words having vanished from my mind like smoke in the wind. And then came the moment that shattered the illusion of normalcy completely, the moment that revealed the terrifying truth lurking beneath the surface. I was in a meeting presenting a complex case to a group of partners and senior associates. I had spent weeks preparing, meticulously researching the legal precedents, crafting a compelling argument, anticipating every possible objection. I was confident in control, at the top of my game. Or so I thought. Halfway through my presentation, as I was explaining a particularly intricate point of law, I froze. My mind went blank. The words simply disappeared. I stammered. I shuffled my notes. I desperately tried to grasp onto a single coherent thought, but it was no use. My mind was a void, an empty canvas. Panic began to set in a cold, clammy sweat prickling my skin. I looked around the room, searching for a familiar face, a lifeline to pull me back from the abyss. And then I saw her. My daughter Emily, sitting in the corner of the room, her brow furrowed with concern, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. She had joined the firm a year ago, fresh out of law school, eager to follow in her father's footsteps. She was bright, ambitious, and fiercely independent. I was so proud of her. But at that moment, as I stared at her across the room, I couldn't remember her name. The realization hit me like a physical blow, a crushing weight that stole my breath and left me reeling. My own daughter. The person I had known and loved for 28 years. Her name, her identity had vanished from my mind. The shame, the horror, the sheer unadulterated terror of that moment is something I will never forget. I stammered, something incoherent, mumbled an apology, and stumbled out of the room, leaving Emily and my colleagues staring after me in stunned silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, haunted by the image of Emily's face, by the crushing weight of my own failing mind. I knew something was terribly wrong. This was not just a series of harmless senior moments. This was something far more sinister, something that threatened to steal my identity, my memories, my very self. After months of tests, brain scans, and endless waiting rooms, the doctor finally looked at me with a grave expression and said the words I never expected to hear: frontotemporal dementia. I'd never heard of it before. The term was foreign, unfamiliar, meaningless. But within 5 minutes of searching online, I realized it was serious. Devastatingly, irrevocably serious. It's not like Alzheimer's, the disease that had slowly stolen my grandmother's mind, leaving her a shell of her former self. This was different. This was faster, more aggressive, more unpredictable. It can affect speech behavior, judgment. It can strip you of your personality, your inhibitions, your very essence. And it hits faster, harder. I went numb. The world seemed to fade away. The sounds of the city muffled, the colors muted. I felt like I was falling, plummeting into an abyss of darkness and despair. How do you prepare to lose yourself? How do you come to terms with the fact that your mind, the very thing that makes you who you are, is slowly but surely slipping away? For weeks I drifted. I went through the motions of my daily life, but I was just a shadow, a ghost haunting my own existence. I went to work, but I couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus, couldn't remember the simplest things. I spent hours staring blankly at my computer screen, the legal documents blurring into meaningless shapes. I went home to Eleanor, my wife of 35 years, the woman who had been my rock, my confidant, my soulmate. But I couldn't connect with her, couldn't express the fear and despair that consumed me. I felt like I was trapped behind a glass wall, unable to reach out, unable to communicate. I watched old home videos, grainy images of happier times, of family vacations, birthday parties, graduations. I saw myself young and vibrant, full of life and energy. I saw Emily, a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin, riding her bicycle, playing with her dolls, laughing with unbridled joy. I wondered how long I had left before I wouldn't recognize the people in those videos, before their faces would become blurred and indistinct, before their names would fade from my memory. One night, as I sat in the living room, staring blankly at the television screen, Eleanor came over to me and took my hand. Her touch was warm and reassuring, a beacon of light in the darkness that enveloped me. "We can't control the diagnosis," she said, her voice soft but firm, her eyes filled with love and determination. "But maybe we can slow it down, together." Those words, simple as they were, jolted me out of my stupor. They were a lifeline, a glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. That night changed everything. I realized that I couldn't simply give up, couldn't surrender to the disease without a fight. I had to do something, anything, to try to hold on to myself, to preserve my memories, to protect my mind from the encroaching darkness. I spent hours researching frontotemporal dementia, devouring every article, every study, every personal account I could find. I learned about the different types of frontotemporal dementia, the various symptoms, the potential treatments. I discovered that there was no cure, no magic bullet, no guaranteed way to stop the progression of the disease. But I also learned that there were things I could do, lifestyle changes I could make that might help to slow it down, to mitigate its effects, to buy myself some time. I found a video from a neurologist explaining how certain lifestyle changes could support brain health, how diet, exercise, mental stimulation, and social connection could all play a role in preserving cognitive function. No magic pills, no cure, but small, consistent actions that might slow the storm. So I decided to fight back. I decided to take control of my life, to make the most of the time I had left to live each day with purpose and intention. I started with food. I had always been a creature of habit, a lover of comfort, food, a devotee of sugary treats. My diet consisted primarily of processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and copious amounts of sweets. I knew it wasn't healthy, but I had always justified it by telling myself that I deserved it, that I had earned it after a long day at work. But now I realized that my diet was not just unhealthy, it was actively harming my brain, fueling inflammation, and exacerbating the effects of the disease. So I started by changing how I ate. I cut out sugar completely because I learned that sugar fuels inflammation and makes it harder for the brain to use energy. So I said goodbye to sweet soft drinks, even hidden sugars in sauces and snacks. It was difficult at first, a constant battle against cravings and old habits. But with Eleanor's support, I persevered. She helped me to find healthy alternatives, to discover new and delicious ways to satisfy my sweet tooth without resorting to sugar. Then I focused on healthy fats, wild salmon, avocado olive oil. I shifted to a Mediterranean keto style of eating. Lots of leafy greens, colorful vegetables, berries, and a handful of nuts, all foods known to feed the brain and calm inflammation. I started experimenting with new recipes, learning about the different nutrients and compounds that support brain health. I discovered the power of antioxidants, the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids, the importance of fiber. I began to see food not just as a source of pleasure, but as a medicine, a powerful tool that could help me to fight back against the disease. I began intermittent fasting, no food after 7 p.m. My first meal wasn't until 11 the next day. It gave my brain more than rest, it triggered renewal. Fasting helped activate cell cleanup, reduce inflammation, and even grow new brain cells. It wasn't easy. The first few days were filled with hunger pangs and irritability. But I stuck with it, reminding myself of the potential benefits, focusing on the long-term goal. And gradually, my body adjusted. I found that I had more energy, more focus, more mental clarity. I started moving more. Exercise had always been a chore, something I dreaded and avoided whenever possible. I preferred to spend my free time reading, watching movies, or simply relaxing on the couch. But I knew that exercise was crucial for brain health, that it could improve blood flow, reduce inflammation, and stimulate the growth of new brain cells. So I started slowly, gradually easing myself into a routine. At first, just 20 minutes of walking a day. Around the block, down to the park, just enough to get my blood flowing and my heart pumping. Then gentle yoga, balance exercises. I found a local yoga studio that offered classes specifically designed for seniors. The instructor was patient and encouraging, and the other students were supportive and welcoming. I began to enjoy the feeling of stretching my muscles, of improving my balance, of connecting with my body in a way I never had before. No intense workouts, just consistent, steady movement to keep the blood flowing to my brain. I also made peace with something I used to ignore: sleep. Not just clocking hours, but honoring it like medicine. I started turning off screens an hour before bed, used warm lights, drank calming tea, and followed a consistent bedtime. No more late night scrolling. No more working until midnight. And it changed everything. Because it's during deep sleep that the brain clears out toxins, resets hormones, and strengthens memory. Sleep wasn't just rest. It became a nightly act of repair, a time when my brain could breathe again. I trained my brain too. Mental stimulation was another key component of my fight against frontotemporal dementia. I knew that I had to keep my mind active, to challenge it, to force it to create new connections and pathways. So I picked up Spanish, something I'd always wanted to learn. I had always been fascinated by languages, but I had never had the time or the motivation to learn a new one. Now, I saw it as a necessity, a way to keep my brain engaged and stimulated. I downloaded a language learning app and started practicing for a few minutes each day. It was challenging, frustrating at times, but also incredibly rewarding. I enjoyed the feeling of learning new words, of understanding new concepts, of expanding my horizons. Dusted off the piano and started playing again. I had taken piano lessons as a child, but I had stopped playing in my teens. The piano had sat in the corner of my living room for years, gathering dust, a silent reminder of a forgotten passion. Now, I decided to rediscover that passion. I started practicing for a few minutes each day, playing simple melodies, working on scales and chords. It was slow going. At first, my fingers stiff and clumsy, my memory hazy. But gradually, the music came back to me. The muscle memory returned. The melodies flowed more easily, and I began to feel the joy of playing again. I worked on puzzles, brain teasers, anything to challenge my mind and create new connections. Sudoku, crossword puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, anything that required me to think, to problem solve, to use my brain in new and different ways. I even started playing chess online, challenging opponents from all over the world. And maybe most importantly, I reconnected. Social connection was perhaps the most unexpected, but also the most powerful weapon in my arsenal against frontotemporal dementia. I had always been a relatively solitary person, content to spend my time alone with my books, my music, and my thoughts. But I realized that social isolation was detrimental to brain health, that it could accelerate cognitive decline and worsen the symptoms of dementia. So I made a conscious effort to reconnect with the people in my life. I called old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. We reminisced about old times, shared stories, and laughed together. I talked more with Eleanor, really talked, not just about the mundane details of our daily lives, but about our hopes, our dreams, our fears. I put down the phone, turned off the news, and made time for real conversation, face to face. We went out for dinner. We went to the movies. We took walks in the park. We rediscovered our love for each other. Our connection deepened, and I felt less alone, less isolated. I joined a support group for people with frontotemporal dementia and their caregivers. It was a difficult decision, a daunting step to admit my vulnerability and share my struggles with strangers, but it turned out to be one of the best things I could have done. I found a community of people who understood what I was going through, who shared my fears and anxieties, who offered support, encouragement, and hope. I learned from their experiences. I shared my own, and I realized that I was not alone in this fight. Some days are still hard. There are moments I lose words, moments emotions hit me without warning. I have moments of clarity, moments where I feel like my old self again, sharp focused and in control. But then there are moments of confusion, moments where I struggle to remember simple things, moments where I feel like I am lost in a fog. But now, I know I'm doing what I can, and that gives me strength. I know that I am fighting back, that I am not giving up, that I am doing everything in my power to slow the progression of the disease and to hold on to myself for as long as possible. But something shifted. I feel more present. My thoughts don't drift as easily. I remember more than I forget. I am more engaged in the world around me, more appreciative of the simple things in life, more connected to the people I love. And Eleanor says, "You're you again." She sees a difference in me, a spark in my eyes, a lightness in my step. She says that I am more like the man she fell in love with, the man she married, the man she has spent her life with. We both know this isn't a cure. We know that the disease will continue to progress, that I will continue to lose my cognitive abilities, that eventually I will lose myself completely. But it's a fighting chance to hold on to myself longer, to make more memories before the fog rolls in, to spend more time with Eleanor, with Emily, with my friends and family, to live each day to the fullest, to appreciate the beauty and the wonder of the world around me. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. Each step I take, each walk, each meal, each new word I learn is my way of telling this disease, you won't take me without a fight. Each moment of connection, each act of kindness, each expression of love is a victory, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. So if you're where I was, scared, numb, drifting, know this, you are not powerless. You have the power to fight back, to take control of your life, to make the most of the time you have left. Start small. Don't try to do everything at once. Focus on one small change, one manageable step. Start by changing what you eat. Cut out sugar, add healthy fats, eat more fruits and vegetables. Take a walk. Even a short walk can make a difference. Call an old friend. Reconnect with the people who matter to you. Breathe. Take a few deep breaths each day to calm your mind and reduce stress. Learn something new, no matter how small. Read a book. Watch a documentary. Take a class. Your brain is still listening. Give it a reason to keep fighting. Give it the fuel it needs to function, the stimulation it needs to grow the connection it needs to thrive. At first, I didn't want to see a doctor. I told myself it was stress, aging, nothing serious. But deep down I knew. And looking back now, I'm grateful I didn't wait too long. Because getting tested early gave me clarity. It gave me time, options, a roadmap. If you're noticing changes in your memory, your mood, your ability to focus, don't wait. Early diagnosis doesn't mean defeat. It means you still have the chance to fight back while your brain is still listening. Because the earlier you start, the more you hold on to what matters most. The more time you have to make memories, to connect with loved ones, to live a life of purpose and meaning. The fight against frontotemporal dementia is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires patience, perseverance, and unwavering determination. But it is a fight worth fighting. Because the prize is your life, your memories, your very self. And that is something worth fighting for with every breath you have left. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, be kind to yourself.